I had something kind of different written down, but what I felt like God just put on my heart was
Yeah.
being being someone that would lay down their life for a friend.
Hmm. Wow.
And I think that's the ultimate sacrifice. It's the ultimate sign of love too.
Yeah.
So I think that's the ultimate sign of being a real man. It's not like this macho, strong.
Hmm.
Those are characteristics, but they're oftentimes just pushed to the forefront by our media and our culture. But someone that's obviously going to provide and protect for their family, despite the costs.
Welcome to the Lion Counseling Podcast. I'm Mark Odland, founder of Lion Counseling and certified EMDR therapist. Our mission is to help men break free, heal deep, and become the lions they were created to be. If you're looking for help, you're always welcome to schedule that free 30-minute call at escapethecagenow.com. Well, today I have the honor of talking with Aaron Dahl, worship pastor for Eagle Brook Church, one of the biggest churches in the country. He's an incredibly talented musician, a husband, a father, and a man with a story to tell. In our conversation together, Aaron describes his incredible journey into music, as well as a season of destruction that led him to the brink of death, and a miraculous story of recovery and of a God who doesn't give up on us, a God who leaves the 99 to go searching for the one. We talk about manhood, we talk about family, we talk about leaving a legacy. And make sure to hang on till the very end, because Aaron shares a truly creative and innovative, a profound 1-minute exercise that we as men can use to reflect deeply upon our lives.
Escape the cage now. Be the lion you was destined to be. Born ready for the war, now my effort is free. The level's been set, time to wrestle the beast. Testing my G, it's getting heavy indeed. The struggle I embrace now, never retreat.
Let's get right into it, Aaron. Maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself. Just your whole life story, just like in 10 minutes. Just kidding. No,
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've done that a few times.
I'm sure.
Yep.
But
My
feel
name's
free to do it in a way that's not boring for you. Like
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Every way is different, right?
yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. And my name's Aaron. I lead worship at a church here, musician, father of four, married to my beautiful wife, Bree. Grew up around the Midwest area, moved 5 times before landing in Minnesota.
All right.
Grew up playing hockey, found music at 19 by somehow randomly getting on stage at a sold out P.O.D.
Oh,
concert
wow.
and singing with the
P.O.D.
singer. And that's what kind of led me into music. And I stayed there for 10 or 12 years doing the rock band thing. And then I eventually found my way to church and leading worship. And now I'm a pastor. And yeah, so now we just do all the sports things, do all the music things. We have four boys. And so it's always just never a dull moment for sure. Just always
Yeah.
something going on.
And you're the worship leader from like for a little farm church with like attendance of like 50 people per Sunday, right?
That's how it started. Yep. A
Yeah.
little tiny church. We've evolved now to 14 campuses. Um, Easter, I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of like 60,000. 60,000, I could be wrong,
That
but it,
is
it was in the
unbelievable.
tens of thousands, yeah. And there was
Wow.
over 2,000 first-time decisions, and it's just been crazy what God's done through our church.
Wow.
So I oversee the Blaine campus and the music there, but we also like bounce around to other campuses as well.
Nice. Nice. That's awesome. Well, very cool. Well, and as we mentioned a little bit before, kind of starting today, our kind of our podcast, my counseling center, it's geared toward helping guys and
Hmm.
kind of exploring those different sides of what it means to be a man. And that's a complicated question in today's day and age.
Yep.
And so, yeah, affirming that, it's good, be a provider, be a protector, but what about creating? What about loving, right? What about,
Hmm.
as impermanent as this life is, trying to build something that has somewhat lasting value, has a ripple effect to bless other people even after we're gone, right?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, being a hockey guy and a musician, you're somewhat of a Renaissance man yourself, but zeroing in for your calling on music. Um, I'd love to hear a little bit about that, if you're willing to share, Aaron, just that journey of discovering music, what made you kind of fall in love with it, and then how that kind of dovetailed into the church and into ministry. Kind of Anything about that story? I'd love to hear what that was like for you.
Sure. I think from as young as I can remember, I just always loved music. I loved singing. I would put on my like Fisher Price roller skates and skate in the house and play hockey and slash
Uh,
the walls and bang them all up. But I would like sing the national anthem before, and
ah,
that kind of led to me like recording myself and doing like play-by-play commentary and with hockey stuff. And I just always sang, and I would sing, throughout school, and then never really thought about doing a band, but I'd write my own songs.
oh, cool.
And then people would come over and they'd listen and I'm like, oh, that's great. And it kind of was affirmed through the people that I had a good voice. So I just kind of went with it. And the way I got into music was like just a Mark Wahlberg rockstar moment. We had touched on earlier. I was at a P.O.D. in Lincoln Park concert, and the singer wanted some people to come up on stage. So I crowd surfed over like hundreds of
Right.
heads to get up on there. And the singer like put his arm around me, and all of a sudden I'm staring out at 17,000 people, and he gives me the mic and I just start singing, we are, youth of the nation. And someone that
Hmm.
was in the audience heard me and was like, I got a friend that's looking for a band. And they contacted me on MySpace, and the rest is kind of history. I joined that band. Two of the members actually quit when I joined because they didn't like my voice. They were going for something else. But that just led me on
Nice.
a journey to like fall in love with music. And it also the sex, drugs, rock and roll thing also is, immersed in that. So that
Sure.
led down a whole dark rabbit hole of addiction and homelessness and in and out of jail and arrests, and just became a version of myself where finally I was woken up in jail and just couldn't believe how I got there. I was in the hospital at one point and they said I had a 10% chance to live, and I didn't know how I even ended up there.
Hmm.
And so that was kind of my turning point of seeking treatment and going through therapy and in and out of inpatient treatment. And now it's been 17 years, which is just crazy to believe. But so music's kind of been its own evolving thing through that, but it's been therapeutic. It's been my passion. It's been my talent. It's been my dream. It's also been a way that I've connected spiritually through God. He communicates through music through me, and
Yeah.
so it's just been a lot of things, and I couldn't imagine my life without it, really.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's very it's kind of hard to believe looking at you now, I mean, just thinking about being at death's door like that, and miraculous to think about those turning points in our life. I mean, there's that moment on stage and then connecting with music, but then there's that other path that you talked about, getting sucked into that, and then surviving, and
Mm.
then going through this process of healing, which I guess my bias as a therapist, right, is we're always in process, right? And
Yeah,
never quite done with that on this side of heaven. But out of curiosity, has your experience with kind of the recovery world and the mental health world been mostly positive? Has it had its ups and downs? Because I know people actually have different experiences depending on how good a fit a certain program is or a certain therapist is. And I know a lot of
sure.
the guys who are listening to this are kind of skeptical, honestly, of
Hmm.
they think it's all this touchy-feely stuff that they don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. I think if I could sum it up, what I've learned is that it's not a one size fits all approach. And
right.
if you have one bad experience, that's not going to be the consensus overall. So, I mean, I did have some bad experiences, but I kept pressing in, and I know I needed to get help. So I just would find a different counselor or a different therapist and continue to do the research on my own. And
Yeah.
everybody's journey is different for sure, and like how much treatment you need or how much the counseling we need. But I feel like we always need a mentor for sure. That's someone that we can trust, that we can
Mm,
confide in. Because I think part of like what I've struggled with as a man is like just having someone to confide in and like tell my stuff that I'm going through, and
right.
just have someone to be like, oh yeah, me too, or yeah, you're gonna get through it. And like you had touched on earlier, like in elementary school, if you have someone that believes in you and your artwork, you can go up
Right.
to
Right.
be Picasso. Like that seed can grow into a huge oak tree, but it can also get snuffed out early too by the wrong people.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. I mean, in this, my specialty is doing trauma therapy with this EMDR therapy, and it's all about discovering the seeds that were planted early on, that
Mm,
that lead to the lies and insecurities and the mini traumas that most of us carry as men.
well,
And sometimes they haunt us, and and they almost become embedded in our nervous system, right?
Mm.
It's like that feeling of not being good enough or not being safe or being out of control or what fill in the blank, right? It's like
Yeah.
we have a deep memory of that. And then anytime it shows up in our present life, we may not actually have a visual memory of where it went back to, but we have this feeling in our gut. It's like,
Sure.
well, I remember that feeling, and I'm not going to go anywhere near that.
Yeah.
And so that whole seek pleasure, avoid pain thing. Um, and so, yeah, there's power in having the courage to face that stuff and to try to get some deep healing. And what you said about the mentor too. I mean, I just think that's so important because a lot of us, I mean, I think the research shows that a lot of guys, if they're lucky, they have one good buddy, and usually their best friend is their wife, and there's some beautiful things about that. But at
Hmm.
the same time, you think about some of the our ancestors. They're off hunting with guys, and they're in these little packs, and boys are learning from their dads, and it's almost like too much pressure for our spouse to be the all in all in a way.
1,000%. Yeah. I think that's
Yeah,
what John Deloney had touched on a lot is like the pressure we put on our spouses is insurmountable because we just want them to be everything and expect them to without even really knowing like no person can handle that pressure.
that's exactly right. Yeah, that's so good. I'm really excited. My wife Rachel and I were actually going to Denver this weekend for the
Oh, yes.
Country Leadership Summit.
Yes.
We're going to see Deloney speak again, and
That's so awesome.
got some good stuff. Yeah.
Very
Um,
good.
yeah. Okay. So that's powerful stuff. So this is kind of a change of direction, but on that theme of kind of masculinity, our own identity in the world, and also through God's eyes. We kind of develop these templates
Hmm.
of even what that means, right? Like, what does it mean to be a man, right? It's not an easy question to answer for us sometimes, and
Right.
and I think about my own life. I think about growing up, right? Like, what models did I have of masculinity? And
Hmm.
because our earthly fathers are imperfect, they lay the groundwork for some really good things and some things that are more challenging, right? And I'm sure I'm
Right.
doing the same as a dad to my kids, as well intentioned as I am. Someday they might be in therapy and being like, "Oh man, my dad was great, but here's this thing," and
Yep.
so it's again process, not perfection, but. Um, I'd
Mm.
love to hear if there's anything you're willing to share about whether it was a dad, an uncle, a teacher, a coach. If there was someone that growing up you looked at and right or wrong, it's kind of like that's what a man was, and if that's evolved or not for you over time.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's evolved, definitely. And I think just being in the hockey circle so much, a lot of my manly figures were coaches. And I just read a quote like coaches pull out the best of you and mentors give the best of themselves. And so like
Hmm.
the good coaches were the ones that were not trying to get something for themselves. They were trying to pull the best out of everybody in a indirect way. Like every kid that we have is different, and so
Yeah.
it's finding the way to like pull that full potential out. But I think like the ones that really made an impact for me were some of my coaches that like believed in me and that were stern on me, but didn't get angry because I kind of shut down when coaches would yell and scream just because, yeah, traumatic experiences. But
Yeah.
um, now I would say it's just like you said, the provider and protector, and I love that you said creative because we
Hmm.
forget. I think we often forget that God first created. That was the first thing he did. And so like God's a creative being and we have that in us to be creative, but we kind of lose that as we get older. We think that's some childish thing or whatever. But the creative and the playful mind, I think, is how we kind of stay one of the ways we can stay healthy and
Yeah. Yeah.
growing.
I love that, Aaron. I mean, I don't know if this might be a stretch or not, but I mean, I remember in one of my religion classes just kind of wrestling with this idea, kind of going off what you said of not only is God an artist, um, but I don't know, the idea of tending, of being part of creation, tending the garden, naming the animals, stewarding it. There's creativity in that too.
Hmm.
And when you throw out that question, what does it mean to be made in the image of God, right? Because we're
Yeah.
told in scripture, we are made in the image of God, but you know, Jesus, the Son, that person of the Trinity, is the only one of the Trinity who took on a physical body.
Hmm.
And so, how are we created in God's image if He's not a physical body, if the Father is not a physical body? And I wonder if it's some of those traits, right?
Mm.
It's like maybe part of being made in the image of God is being creative, right?
Hmm.
Just like
Hmm.
just like our Father, just like our Dad in heaven. And it makes me wonder if maybe He's just up there smiling when He sees us writing a song or singing a song or
Yeah.
doing some artwork. It's I don't
Yep. Yep. And I'm not always perfect at this, but I've been trying to give God the credit and the glory when those type of moments happen. When I do create something beautiful, I try not to have it be from me. Like I'm a vessel of God's creativity that He's gifted me with, and it's very hard to not take credit for it. And I'm working on it, work in progress. But I
Yeah,
think when we do that, God kind of blesses us more and gives us more of a territory to reach more people and expanded our influence. And as you've probably seen in your journey, as your counseling grows, it probably is a lot of just having open-handedness and just seeing God work through it and just blessing Him and giving back and that whole circle how it works.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because I feel like, along with what you're saying, it's like I like to believe that God wired us so that when we receive encouragement or praise, it's meant to feel good. It's meant to be encouraging, to be able to receive it. But then there's that fine line where it can turn into that pride, and then it's not God shining through me. It's like it's my stuff,
Hmm.
and I mean, even with like a podcast like this, right? It's small, but it's growing fast, and I'm like, it's like deep down, it's like, wow, that'd be kind of cool to like be a big podcast, like a really
Yeah.
big one. Like what? And then it's like, oh, what's
Hmm.
that about, Mark? Like,
Yeah.
why? Why? Because I want fame or because I want to help
Hmm.
people? And
Right.
I'd like to think it's more wanting to help people than the other side,
For sure.
but yeah, I mean, if we're really honest with ourselves, there's those temptations and forces at play. And
Hmm.
especially with talent. I mean, I mentioned to you, we didn't know each other well before the podcast, but just doing a little snooping on YouTube, I'm like, man, Aaron, you've got an incredible gift, right? God has given you an incredible voice, and it's powerful. And I could imagine that if you're not grounded, that would be a constant temptation for someone with your platform and skill.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. One of the struggles that I've had lately is as I grow as a musician and person and leader, I have more confidence. But at the same time, does our influence determine by the number of people we reach?
right,
And that's the struggle. Like you had said, like if your podcast only reached 10 people an episode, but it was 10 people where it made huge life impact, would it be
right,
worth it? Over 1 million people, but maybe two of them came back, and it's like we got to continue to put our effort in for the one and do
right.
it for the one person, and then the rest will kind of it'll take its
Hmm.
toll. Just, but that's kind of where I've been living right now is because I feel like I'm at this dichotomy in my life, just turning 40. Like, what do I want to do the next 10 years of my life? And is it
Right.
going to be in this music field or am I going to branch out? Because podcasting has been a passion of mine as well.
Nice, nice.
But is it about reaching a lot of people or is
Right.
it about just, having that one make an impact? Because I was the lost sheep and I've seen
Wow.
the full turnaround. And so,
That's powerful. And maybe for those who are listening out there who aren't familiar with the story, there's this beautiful passage where Jesus tells this story about this shepherd, right? And he's got the 100 sheep, but one of them has wandered away. And he does the counterintuitive thing, right? He leaves the 99 and he goes after the one and brings
mhm.
him back safe in his arms. And there's this apparently a party afterward,
Yeah.
right? And just this sense that no matter how far gone someone might feel like they are, how disconnected from God, maybe even questioning if He's out there or how He could possibly love them given their story, um, it's kind of humbling, at least for me. It kind of almost makes me tear up thinking about how He's the kind of God who not just He doesn't sit there and wait for us to jump through hoops. He actually pursues us, and
Hmm.
he's going out there hacking through the brush trying to find us and bring us home. And that's such good news.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I heard something recently that we take one step and God will take the other 100 to get to us. Like
Ooh,
all we have to do is just come a little bit and he comes the rest because he's just waiting. And I think
Mm,
his eyes search the whole world for people that are just earnestly searching for him. And he's met me in a couple times when I've just been in dire need. And that's what's kind of secured my faith is because I've had like rock solid moments where he's shown up where it's put me to my knees and in
wow.
tears. And it's undeniable that he has met me in those type of encounters. And that's kind of been my life purpose is just creating those counters for other people. So it just
Mm,
solidifies their faith. And then that just lights a fire for the people that are around them and so on, the ripple effect.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'd love to hear too, Aaron, about like, I mean, you connected with this about music being so powerful, obviously, in your life. Not only how you serve others, but how you connect with God. Um, in your routine, whether it's preparation or whether it's actually leading worship or in your quiet time just playing, are there moments like where it's like, man, that's it? Like you're just totally in the flow, totally just feeling alive. Is it all of the above, or are there certain moments that are more than others where you just kind of feel like this is it?
Yeah, I think it's shifted a little bit since music became my career, where I'm just
Yeah.
around music so much that I've had moments where I don't listen to it as much leisurely as I used to, but there are definitely a lot of moments that are just deep. It's just like an electricity that goes through me where like the song is written about me, even though it has nothing to do with me, like this Hard Fought Hallelujah song by Brandon Lake. It was so powerful to my soul. It was like God gave him that song to give to me, to give to others. And it's just
Hmm.
this full moment. And it meant so much to be able to sing it to our for our church and just to make an impact that those are the moments that I live for. Those are those mountaintop moments.
Yeah.
And we want to stay up on the mountaintop and it's hard to come back down and finding a way to navigate that is always tricky, but that's
Yeah.
probably more your field than mine. But
Uh,
the mountaintop moments are what we live for sure in this field.
yeah, it's true, right? I mean, it's I don't know what study I came across, but it had something to do with we get this like dopamine high that comes with a beautiful moment. And it's like if we don't actually let ourselves spend a little time in the after it comes back down and kind of just like sometimes if we go for the next high too quickly, then it's almost like the bar gets set so high that it takes even a higher high to I mean this is like recovery
Hmm.
language, right? But we
Yep.
don't think about it when it comes to something beautiful like serving or talent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um I think I saw an interview with uh Green Bay Packers, former Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, like after he won the Super Bowl. And after the high, he kind of crashed down to this emotional low. And he's like, well, now what?
Yeah.
Like, what's next? I'm supposed to be elated. I'm supposed to
Right.
be riding high,
Hmm.
but now I feel kind of depressed.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's an interesting thing to navigate for us as guys is to, and that's a whole other podcast, right? About how we define happiness
Hmm.
and what that means in the midst of life's ups and downs and struggles. And
Hmm.
I mean, thinking back to that powerful thing you shared about kind of 10% chance to live in the hospital, not even knowing why. Like, what happened next to kind of like come out of that? Was it a moment of clarity? Was it a process? Because it sounds like it was very close to like literally wrecking your life.
Yeah. It was definitely a process, and I definitely luckily had people alongside me, my parents and my then girlfriend, now wife, that kind of helped lead me into treatment. But I think I've seen it happen too when I just cry out to God, like, I need you. I need you to put people in my life. And I think that's what it really is. And that's kind of what I was going to leave men with was just
Yeah, yeah,
there's, you're never too far gone. And the situation is never too bad for God not to redeem it. In fact, he loves to redeem those stories. He loves to. And he used Paul, who murdered Christians and was a horrible person, to be the most impactful person of the New Testament. He wrote most of the New Testament, but he was like a horrible person, but God redeems and he's in the business of that. So
yeah.
I think that's all it is really is just crying out to God and he'll put all the pieces together of who needs to be in their lives and all that stuff.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. even though there are place times and places where as men we strive to be strong and disciplined and self-reliant, there is something about the exact opposite of complete surrender
Mm.
that can be a game changer for us. And I imagine if some guys listening to this are kind of like, yeah, that sounds great, but I'm not even sure he's out there, or what kind of character he has. I mean, I don't know where I heard it, but along the lines of, it's okay to pray, God, I don't know if you're real,
Hmm.
but if you are, please help me, right? And
Hmm.
there are plenty of scriptures that almost indicate that somehow that's almost more faith in some ways than someone who's, I don't know,
Yeah.
acting really religious, but they're not
Right.
humble or honest enough to just be real with where they're at.
Yeah. Totally. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting. So the journey and so now you're in the kind of the Twin Cities metro area, raising your family, leading worship. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Running
And
all over to practices and activities and the
oh yeah.
craziness that comes with four kids, right?
Yeah. It kind of sneaks up on you early, and before you know it, our whole schedule's full of sports. And so that can be a balancing act for sure, and that's something that I'm still trying to navigate, and I'm sure I'll get wrong many times, but it's like giving them the opportunities that we wish we had, and but yet not trying to live vicariously through the things that we didn't.
Yeah.
And that's tough because my first and foremost job is to be just showing them God's character and love, and just telling them scripture and making sure they're memorizing it, and I'm living it out. And like you said, I'm acting it. I'm not just telling it, just being
Right.
a passerby of my faith. But
Yeah. Yeah. We learn so much as dads, don't we? About just
yep,
it,
I
it,
always tell my wife, like, we'll be okay parents, but we'll be great grandparents.
hey, there we go. I'm sure there's a lot of truth to that for sure. Well, one of the questions we try to ask all our guests, which is a loaded question, but it's that what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a real man? And there's all sorts of cultural junk out there that muddies the waters and makes it less helpful. But um, without having to have the perfect answer, maybe it's just what's Aaron's answer? What do you
Mm,
this space in your life? What does it feel like to you?
yeah. I had something kind of different written down, but what I felt like God just put on my heart was
Yeah.
being being someone that would lay down their life for a friend.
Hmm. Wow.
And I think that's the ultimate sacrifice. It's the ultimate sign of love too.
Yeah.
So I think that's the ultimate sign of being a real man. It's not like this macho, strong.
Hmm.
Those are characteristics, but they're oftentimes just pushed to the forefront by our media and our culture. But someone that's obviously going to provide and protect for their family, despite the costs. Someone that's going to be authentic and true to themselves and not get pulled into something that's not part of their morals because of X, Y, and Z.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, thanks for being real and being in the moment with that, Aaron. I really could tell that struck a chord with you emotionally, and you felt that on your heart, and that is a powerful thing, right? For us to be able to look ourselves in the mirror as men and to think, who would I lay down my life for? What would that? Hopefully, it doesn't come to that, but if it did, and the extreme version of that is physical death, which isn't the end. But then I think maybe you got at this a little bit with how we serve and love and parent, and
Hmm.
there's a kind of mini laying down of your life each day with the ways we serve and sacrifice for other
Yeah.
people.
Hmm.
And uh, so yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It's beautiful.
Yeah. You bet.
Yeah, yeah. Um, well, this other question ties into that a little bit. I mean, another one of the kind of the big questions we like to ask our guests is, again, even though this life, in the grand scheme of things, is kind of a vapor, it's very short compared to eternity, and in some ways, nothing really lasts except all the good things that are part of God's kingdom, kind of breaking into this world now.
Hmm.
But But in the sense of wanting to uh, leave the world a better place than we found it by God's grace, hopefully the ripple effects of our life continue to ripple out even after we're gone in ways that are a blessing
Mm,
to other people and to the world. And so it kind of goes into that question of legacy, right?
yeah.
And you're still a young guy, 40, right? I'm 45, asking some of the
I'll take it.
same
Yeah.
kinds of questions, right? It kind of feels like, um, all right, if God willing, hopefully I'm only half done with my life or somewhere around there.
Hmm.
But when that day comes, right? What would I like to? What would I hope would be my legacy, right? So that's my question for you: is what would you hope your legacy would be when people
Yeah,
think of you and the impact that you have had or continue to have even after you're gone?
sure. I think about this question a lot, especially since COVID, the confrontation or the what's the word I'm looking for? Um, we were closer to death than I think I could have been. And we
Yeah,
were supposed to go on a cruise right during COVID, and we were like, if we go, we could all die, right? And so I just
right.
laid in bed at night, like thinking about death a lot and like looking back, if I did, would I be happy? Would there be regrets? And so I reflect on this a lot, not in like a dark way, but in like a way that's gonna re-energize me to be the best person every day. And so like the legacy aspect is kind of evolving as I grow, but it all comes down to love, honestly. And like if I had all the answers, if I had all the songs that were reached by millions, but I didn't have love, it would just be noise. And if I was the best parent and I led my kids to get triple PhDs and do all the things, but I didn't have love, then it would be for nothing. And so I think it all just comes down to that. I just want to leave a legacy of love that's, being tenderhearted, being forgiving, like you've been with me, showing up late to the first podcast and
No
just
worries, man.
giving people, Jesus said we forgive people 70 times seven. It's just like another way to say we forgive when we forgive and we forgive. So the legacy I just want to leave is just being like the character of Jesus, really just loving people and despite who they are. And I've been around a lot of different people and treatment centers and psych wards and jails and on the street and in high circles of high profile people and
Yeah,
everybody is a person. It doesn't matter to me how much money you have or it's that God cares about every person. In fact, the people that don't have much is who we should be caring more for, the widows and the lame and the sick, the blind, the imprisoned. But we don't often do that. But when we do, we're rewarded more than we are when we pour into them. And so that's the God effect there.
yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. I mean, forgive and forgive and forgive. Yeah, and to have a heart for the people that Jesus had a heart for, and I think that's one of the things we really wrestle with on this podcast is that dynamic tension of, in some ways, there are guys, a lot of our listeners really value strength, really value um, self-reliance, and there are really good things about that. But take the politics completely out of it and just focus on Jesus. He has some commands for us, right? And see the world through his eyes means to love people no matter what they look like or what they believe, and to know that God loves them just as much as he loves me. And that's very humbling thought. Um, I mean, you maybe touched on this kind of early in our talk too, Aaron, but kind of this question of if you could leave one thing, like one piece of advice or encouragement for the guys who are listening today that hopefully could make a difference in their life, something they could kind of put into action today,
Hmm.
even if it was a small step. What do you think that might be? What's on your heart to kind of leave with guys today?
Yeah, I think what I had said earlier about we're never too far gone or nothing's too broken
Yeah,
to be redeemed. And it doesn't have to be like spiritual even. It can be like,
sure.
our marriage or our careers or our talents or our kids. Like they can always get better. And I'm trying to live by this model of like 1% better. Just 1% better every day. And you look back over a year, you'll start to see results. And so I think just knowing that things can get better and we swim in this age of information. So I struggle with the analysis paralysis thing where there's way too much good information. So then I just don't know what to do with it all. So it's just making
Yeah.
it's you got to make action steps, like have a plan
Yeah.
and write it on your mirror, write it
Ooh, I like
everywhere,
that.
all over the place. Like I do that with my wife with chapstick. Sometimes on the mirror, I'll just write "You're loved." Just something simple.
I
Just
like
to
that.
remind ourselves to make an action step every day to be 1% better.
1%, man. That's a good word of wisdom, very practical. And I think sometimes we have these lofty goals and exactly what you said, we have so-called motivation for a day or two and then it fizzles and then we have that all or nothing thinking
Hmm.
and toss it out the window instead of being like, all right, back on the saddle, man. It's just a little step backward, but back on and 1% a day. And then you look back a few months and go back and you're like, man, that's been a ton of progress.
Yeah.
And I had this funny image when you were talking about writing it everywhere with what do you say, lipstick and
Chapstick.
chapstick. I'd be like,
Lipstick works too.
I could write it on my wife's forehead so that I can see it, and she
Yeah.
can't. But I don't know if she'd go. I
Yeah.
don't know if she'd go for that, but
Yeah.
worth a try. I
That's
could
good.
say
I
Aaron.
like
Aaron
that.
told me, and
Yeah.
I think
It's
you
an
need
ex
to.
it's an experiment.
Nice, nice. Well, Aaron, what where can people discover a little bit more about your music or whether it's personal music or podcasting or the church that you serve? What would you people like to how can people find you?
Sure. YouTube's probably one of the better places. I'm not on a lot of the socials, which probably doesn't work good with being a musician, but yeah, Aaron Dahl. You can type into Google or search on YouTube, and I was in a band, Emergent, um, that had, if you like heavy metal or hard rock, and I'm writing more acoustic stuff now,
Oh, cool.
singer-songwriter stuff about like kind of the journey.
Nice.
So hopefully that'll be released sometime in the next year or so. We're just kind of waiting out to feel out where to place it and the direction to go. But yeah,
That's
most
awesome. Well, and it'll be in the description too. There'll be we'll throw some links up there for you. And your last name's spelled Dahl.
yep, that's
Dahl.
right.
Okay. Cool.
Scandinavian.
Solid. Solid. That's our next conversation is Scandinavian stuff, right? You
Yeah.
got the Viking beard. You're rocking that.
Vikings
I
and
like
Wolves,
it.
baby. Yeah. Excited for the Wolves.
All right. Well, Aaron, thank you. Thank you, brother, and God bless you with the work that you're doing. It's been a blessing to talk with you, get to know you a little bit through the podcast, and just excited about the work that you're doing and your open and honest conversation with me today. So thanks again.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me, Mark. And I had one more story to share
Yes. All
that I
right.
felt like would be impactful.
I love
And
it.
I'm a visual thinker, and so
Hmm.
maybe this will help all the men that are visual, but I was in a songwriting group with a bunch of people lately, and I had this visual of like our legacy is like we're in this convertible Lincoln, right? Like the 70s long body Lincoln, and we're like flying up our way to heaven, or this is like our afterlife, and
Yeah.
we're going and our life is over, but we have like 1 minute to write all these little notes
Hmm.
of things to throw out the window to leave behind for our kids.
Oh, wow.
And we only have 1 minute to do it, but we've had our whole life of experience to know what to write. So, what are the letters that we're going to write? And it's not about waiting till tomorrow to do that. It's doing them now, and it's doing them daily, and it's taking action to do. Like that's been my word. One of the words this year is just do. Put your mouth into action and do them. So, what are the letters that we're going to leave for the people behind us to make life better and make this world better?
Wow. And if you wait too long, you're not around to write those letters, are we? Yeah.
That's right.
Wow, that is powerful. Yeah, I think I've got an assignment. I like it.
Mm,
Thanks,
love
Aaron.
it. Yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciate that final thought. That's a great word to end on for our listeners. And for guys who made it to the end, throw in a comment. What would you write? What would you write
Mm,
to your family,
yeah.
to your loved ones, to your circles? What would that be without overthinking it, right? You got 1 minute.
Hmm.
Just put it
Yeah.
down and yeah, that's an exercise in evaluating our life and where we are and who we want to be. And Yeah, powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. So, again, if you're a guy out there, you're looking for some extra support, escapethecagenow.com. We're here. We're here to help, and you can also check out our links in the description box. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.